Chapter 1346, Paying Bill for Others. Elder Wisdomless raised his hand, taking out a mansion artifact and saying with a smile, "Of the items refined by my sect, weapons are the most popular. I didn't expect we would be short on mansion-type artifacts after coming here. By the way, this one is an 8th graded immortal artifact. Not only can it be used as a residence, but it can also be used to fly for journeys." Apotheosis Bella received and then nodded. "Thank you. There's no need to be that polite, fellow immortal," replied Elder Wisdomless. "This is the custom of my sect and something I must uphold. But junior brother Colorless can't come out this time, else he would be very happy to see you." Apotheosis Bella realized that Elder Wisdomless likely had already guessed her true identity, so she didn't want to stay here for a long time. Then, she asked Tang Xiu, "Are we leaving now? Or let's continue to stroll around since we're already here, shall we? Maybe we can run into some unexpected surprises," said Tang Xiu. "Do the two of you still need my company?" asked Elder Wisdomless with a smile. "Temporarily no, but we'll notice some others find you when we need you," said Tang Xiu. "Also, send my regards to fellow immortal Nameless." "Senior brother Nameless?" Elder Wisdomless' eyes gleamed as he watched Tang Xiu and Apotheosis Bella enter the corridor leading to the rear, secretly wondering their true identity. He had vaguely guessed Apotheosis Bella's identity, but who was that young man, and what was his origin and background that he sent his regards to his senior brother Nameless through him? It must be noted that those who could have a relationship with his senior brother Nameless in the immortal world were all powerful powerhouses, who were at least at the perfected golden immortal stage or supremacy stage. In the corridor, Apotheosis Bella sent a voice transmission to Tang Xiu. "I ran into Elder Colorless 500 years ago when I was fighting in the vicinity of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, against Zither Demon Joyao's people. I had no idea who he was since he changed his face, but I fought side by side with him to help the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and stayed there for decades. Finally, he was forced to withdraw since he was hit hard and seriously injured." Sigh. Tang Xiu sighed as he transmitted his reply, "I do have a deep relationship with this refiner sect, but I didn't expect them to lend a hand to help the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect in the critical moments. I owe them this favor and will repay it in the future." Suddenly, he recalled the physical condition of Elder Wisdomless and an idea crossed his mind all of a sudden. Elder Wisdomless had a grave injury and it was impossible for him to advance to the supremacy stage for life. Yet, he had an extreme means to alter this old man's condition. It could be said to be an exchange between friends. The Artificer sect had extended their hands to help the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and he would pay it through Elder Wisdomless. The palace itself had an enormously spacious space in the interior. Tang Xiu and Apotheosis Bella had been strolling around for nearly a day inside and only saw 1/3 of the regions inside the artifact. "Can you sell it at a cheaper price? We have been on a tight budget recently. 2.4 million immortal crystals is my limit. I can't take out more no matter how much we want to." As Tang Xiu and Apotheon Bella entered a hall at the side, they heard a bitter voice from inside. When the two of them looked at the voice's direction, they saw two men in their 30s bargaining with someone from the Artificer sect. "I'm sorry, the lowest price for this axe is 3.2 million immortal crystals. We can't get even the manufacturing cost if we sell it for 2.4 million. Both patrons may have to look for some other weapons if you don't have that many immortal crystals," said the beautiful female immortal serving the two men as she shook her head helplessly. These two men were Star Luminous and Star Peng. Both were late-stage golden immortals and disciples of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. They were famous for being outstanding geniuses of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, since it was hopeful for them to reach the perfected golden immortal stage in less than 2,000 years. Even in the immortal world, the geniuses that could rival them were very few and far between. However, the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect was now in a precarious situation that forced its disciples to withdraw and stay in the sect, increasing the consumption rate of various cultivation resources to a huge amount. This time, these two men who knew that the secret place of drunken Immortal Supreme was about to open, begged their martial ancestor, Soul Star Supreme, to allow them to go out, and took the chance for the opportunity. Finally, after blazing through many interceptions on their journey with the help of immortal artifacts gifted by Soul Star Supreme, they escaped death time and time again before finally arriving at this place while concealing their identities. Unfortunately, their innate natal immortal weapons were destroyed after the battles, so they could only try to find a way to buy some artifact weapons. Only after buying them would they be more prepared and have more capital for fighting when they entered the secret palace. Yet, they couldn't help but feel helpless now. Although the sect did give them some immortal crystals, the sect itself was on an extremely tight budget, so they were only given 3 million immortal crystals, while they had also spent 600,000 on the journey. The remaining 2.4 million immortal crystals were all they had. Star Luminous' eyes were full of deep disappointment and said bitterly, "Hey, guess we can only choose some other artifact since this Skyshaker Axe's price can't be lowered." Sullen, vexed, and bitter feelings filled them. Due to being immediate family as well as having outstanding cultivation talents in the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, they had never lacked immortal crystals and crystal essences before. All kinds of resources were provided to them in an endless number and literally exhaustible. Back then, there was never a chance for them to worry about some million immortal crystals. "Senior brother, the Skyshaker Axe is already the lowest grade immortal weapon that can barely enter your eyes," said Star Peng bitterly. "Your combat power will be greatly reduced if you get an artifact with a lower grade. But we just can't take out so many immortal crystals now, and we can't afford to buy that axe no matter what," Star Luminous helplessly replied. "Besides, that half-moon immortal saber is also the most suitable weapon for you." What a déjà vu. Tang Xiu came over with Apotheosis Bella and spoke these words, attracting the attention of Star Luminous, Star Peng, and the female immortal attendant. Then, he lightly said, "What the two young friends are facing is something that I've experienced in the past. But a senior passed by back then and paid the artifact I took a liking to. He only said some words to me, this is fate. Further, I also had to go through life and death situations several times and barely escaped later. The scene of the past came into my mind after seeing you. I'm deeply sympathetic after seeing your situation, so let me pay for those two immortal weapons." "Pardon?" Star Luminous and Star Peng exchanged incredulous glances. They never dreamed that they would run into a generous man who would buy immortal weapons for them, especially when they were so dirt poor and couldn't afford it. "May I know your honored name, senior?" "Us martial brothers will never forget your grace today," Star Luminous gratefully cupped his fists and asked respectfully. "It was fate that made us meet, so I won't pretend and act otherwise," said Tang Xiu with a smile. "This lord is Great Tang, Heavenly Emperor. You can address me as senior." "Thank you, Senior Great Tang," saluted the two men again. Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, "I already said that it was the work of fate, so spare me all the pleasantries and politeness. You will still have a chance to repay this act of friendship if you go on living and become stronger in the future. Well, the artifacts here are cheap, so you should also pick some defensive ones. The more life-saving capital you have, the better the chance for you to survive in the future. Then you can repay me later." About this, both men hesitated. Contrary to their expressions, the female immortal attendant's beautiful face turned strange, and an envious look even flickered in her eyes. Seeing the hesitation on their faces, Tang Xiu lightly said, "Do not reject the hand that extended to you when you're down. Only when you can go on living and become stronger will you be able to deal with all issues with confidence. Further, you won't be able to get any defensive artifact should you refuse me, no?" Star Luminous and Star Peng both expressed similar looks and nodded to each other. After thanking Tang Xiu, they each took one offensive artifact and one defensive suitable for them, even though they looked at Tang Xiu with embarrassed expressions. Tang Xiu then shifted to the female immortal attendant and lightly asked, "How many immortal crystals in total then?" 34 million immortal crystals in total, sir, said the female immortal after calculating the price. Tang Xiu took out 340,000 crystal essences and gave them to her as he said lightly, please count them. If the number is correct, then conclude the transaction. Understood. Quickly after, the female immortal respectfully said, the number is correct, sir. Tang Xiu shifted to Star Luminous and Star Peng. After contemplating for a moment, he said, there's still half a year before the secret palace opens. Even if both you are perfected golden immortals, staying and living outdoors won't be good for you. If you're willing, you can run some errands for me for these 6 months. You'll only do trivial things and I'll give you shelter. I can also reward you 1 million crystal essences if the things I tell you to do are dangerous. How about it? 1 million. Crystal essences? Star Luminous and Star Peng's eyes suddenly lit up. This number of crystal essences to them was huge. Even if hundreds of thousands of people in the entire Vermilion Bird Holy Sect were to gather all their wealth now, the number wouldn't even be close to it, right? As always, just as birds would die for food, men's avarice for riches would always prevail. Let's take it. The two exchanged glances quickly and then respectfully said, we're willing to follow you and work for you for 6 months, Senior Great Tang. Tang Xiu happily nodded and said, all right, then follow me if you are done here. Senior Great Tang, we still have 2.4 immortal crystals. So, we also want to buy some healing elixirs. We ran out of any healing pills on the way here, said Star Luminous hurriedly. Tang Xiu serenely observed the two men and sighed secretly after seeing their bitter expressions. From Star Luminous' words, he could guess that these two guys had blazed through many crises on the way here. Else, such golden immortals like them must have brought at least some healing elixirs. In the next moment, Tang Xiu took out 2 jade bottles from his interspatial ring and threw them as if throwing the trash. He then lightly said, what grade of healing elixir can you buy with so few immortal crystals, and how many of them can you buy? Let's just head out. Don't waste my time. Chapter 1347, Happy Days of Living Together. Star Luminous and Star Peng took the jade bottle. Wry smiles suddenly appeared on their faces after they unplugged the corks and smelled the scent of medicine that fluttered from the inside. Purple scent pills. Each of which was worth 1 million immortal crystals. Even a golden immortal who was seriously injured could fully recover in just a few days after taking one. What left them speechless was that this mysterious Great Tang Heavenly Emperor threw them 1 bottle each as though throwing garbage. 20 of them. A purple scent pill was worth 1 million immortal crystals, so the total value of these 20 pills was 20 million immortal crystals. Aside from this, he also bought them some artifacts worth 34 million immortal crystals. So, this time, he had already spent 54 million immortal crystals for them, brothers. He was really, truly filthy rich. Both of them smiled bitterly and put the jade bottle into their interspatial rings and followed Tang Xiu. Their curious eyes kept lingering on the backs of Tang Xiu and Apotheosis Bella, while silently wondering from where did this Great Tang Heavenly Emperor come from. They had never heard of him before. In the vast mountain range, Tang Xiu released the myriad golden catamaran outside the riverbank millions of miles away, causing it to burst out into a ship-shaped building that covered an area of a few kilometers. Afterward, a portal was then opened and the 4 people floated into the interior. The myriad golden catamaran itself had a total of 3 floors. Aside from the spacious hall on the first floor, there were 24 relatively small halls, each of which was completely empty. On the second floor, aside from the hall in the middle were 100 rooms connected by a corridor. As for the third floor, it only had 4 halls of the same size with a corridor, and the profound crystal windows easily allowed one to see the scenery outside. You're free to choose any room on the second floor. But you're not allowed to enter the third floor without my permission. Tang Xiu then took Apotheosis Bella to the third floor after speaking. Shortly after, he took out every article he had put into his interspatial ring. all of which were a large number of household items he purchased back when he was on Earth. He even brought Earth's most famous bed, Simmons, and placed hundreds of them, excluding some small military bunks he bought with Gu Xiaoxue. Wow, all these things are very chic. Casting curious looks at each article Tang Xiu brought out and watched him put them up quickly and formed unconventional-looking space. Apotheosis Bella exclaimed as she reached out to observe a desk lamp. Tang Xiu faintly smiled in response. The desk lamp itself had a spare battery, so he walked over and turned on the switch. As the light turned on, he smiled and said, "It's a technological product from Earth. All the things here were brought from my world, Earth. I used to ignore these so-called technological products in the past. Then I regressed and thought again that cultivation has its own merits, as do science and technology. After handling some things here, I plan to visit some technological star territories to get a lot of technological armament." "I've seen these technological armaments you mentioned before," said Apotheosis Bella with a frown. "But those regions are usually not in the boundaries of the immortal world. The sentient beings there are all civilized empires of various levels in the distant void. But to me, it seems that those tech-based weapons are very appalling. I can smash a huge battleship with a slap." "Well, there's quite a distinction in the military-grade tech armaments itself, though," said Tang Xiu with a smile. "Some powerful battleships are even able to kill a golden immortal with their bombardment. Even those state-of-the-art battleships have a main gun that can pose a threat to a perfected golden immortal. Bella, it's best to not underestimate anything, whatever it is. These things can exist for a reason, and that already explains their value." Apotheosis Bella thought for a while about it and felt that Tang Xiu's reasoning made sense. However, she was still indifferent to these so-called technological armaments and casually brushed it off with a smile. "Well, I'm still going with you since you want to go there, though. Consider it as strolling outside to relax and find something new." "Might as well." Tang Xiu nodded with a smile. On the second floor, Star Luminous and Star Ping didn't separate and looked rather surprised. They casually picked a room and immediately arranged a soundproof array. Then, they took out 2 futons from their interspatial rings and sat cross-legged. "I can't help but feel that something is amiss with this great Tang Heavenly Emperor, senior brother." Star Pang's eyes flickered as he whispered. "My thoughts exactly." Star Luminous nodded and slowly said, "But I don't sense any killing intent from him. Besides, with his cultivation level and the strength of the woman next to him, killing us would be very easy for them. Yet, they didn't do anything to us, meaning that they harbor no malice toward us. Whether they harbor malice or not is not something we can conclude for now." Star Ping argued. "Besides, there are too many people in need of help in this world." "Why us?" "What do you mean?" asked Star Luminous. "You think he has some plan for us or something?"
"Yeah."
Star Peng nodded. "We've changed our appearance and even disguised our aura. Only those very familiar with us could guess who we really are. But we've never met this great Tang Heavenly Emperor, so it's very unlikely that he knows us. That's why I think that the reason he helped us is not as simple as wanting to make friends. Maybe he's paying attention to us since he wants to use us." Star Luminous nodded without a word. Then, he said, "I can't rule out such a possibility either. Though I just can't figure out what he wants to use us for." Star Peng squinted his eyes and added, "He may have no place where to use us now, but the chance is high after entering the secret palace of the drunken immortal supreme, though." Star Luminous' expression shifted. After contemplating for a long while, he slowly said, "We're just throwing guess after guess wildly, but we won't be getting any answers. Whether he wants to use us or not, we only need to remember one thing: stay vigilant and guard against anyone. We'll immediately retreat once we notice something wrong." "Well, that's the only way, I guess." Star Ping nodded and then said, "If anything, let's just hurry up and refine our immortal weapons before the secret palace opens. We'll have some more life-preserving means when we get inside the secret palace." Time passed by quickly and 4 months fleeted by in the blink of an eye. There were only 2 months left before the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme opened. During this period of time, Tang Xiu and Apotheosis Bella stayed on the 3rd floor of Myriad Golden Catamaran, observing the movements in the surroundings, aside from immersing themselves in cultivation. Here, they practiced pair cultivation, something usually done between immortal couples. After Tang Xiu and Apotheosis Bella had such double cultivation, Tang Xiu's primal chaos force rose several grades than an immortal spiritual force, whereas Apotheosis Bella, who was still a virgin and at the supremacy stage, had her essence energy soar to an almost unthinkable extent. Therefore, both of them received huge benefits and their cultivation increased by leaps and bounds with such rapid progress. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis truly has infinite mysteries. Although I can't fully understand it, nor can I cultivate like others, the benefits I obtained in these several months are really hard to believe. The harvest I got from several months of cultivation is worth hundreds of years of lone cultivation. Apotheosis Bella herself advanced to the supremacy stage for some time. Due to having to fight continuously, she didn't have time to stabilize her realm, but these few months were enough for her to stabilize her foundation, and the might she could unleash now was at least 10% stronger than before. Tang Xiu didn't talk to her on this issue but came to the window to look outside. Within an area of hundreds of kilometers, aside from seeing immortals everywhere, only mansions and palaces in his sight. Both of them had yet to see any familiar face among them and chose to be silent whenever some familiar figures flew by. There are only 2 months left, Bella. I need to investigate the situation outside. Great Emperor Dan Qing never likes lively scenes and he always lives in seclusion, so he's likely not here. But Zither Demon Jiuyao is the opposite of him. He always likes to show up wherever any major events occur. You're a supreme now, so those perfected golden immortals won't be able to detect your cultivation level. But supremes can detect it, so you must stay here just in case you run into any supremacy stage powerhouse. Tang Xiu turned around and spoke with all seriousness. Apotheosis Bella thought for a while and nodded. I understand. You still have Star Tears and Sable Fiend Scorpio, so I can rest my worries. However, there are countless powerhouses from all over the immortal world on the eve of such a major event like this. Many of whom have feuds with each other, so the situation will undoubtedly be chaotic. Do pay attention to your own safety and don't easily clash with others, you hear? No worries. I know that. Tang Xiu nodded. Having said that, he came to the 2nd floor and found that Star Luminous and Star Ping were no longer cultivating in their rooms, but standing outside the cabin and looking around the ship. He immediately came to them and lightly asked, Are you thinking of going outside to stroll around? Ah, great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Both of them quickly saluted Tang Xiu and Star Luminous then said, I do think of strolling around, sir. After all, the secret palace will open soon and countless forces are about to gather. We want to investigate how many powerhouses and forces are preparing to enter the secret palace. It's likely that only a few immortals, celestial immortals, or profound immortals will dare to enter the secret palace. I'm sure they are well aware that entering it is equal to being robbed of their treasures. The chance of them getting killed is just too great, said Tang Xiu. However, the number of perfected golden immortals in the entire immortal world is at least around 1 million, and more than a half will definitely choose to enter the secret palace for the inheritance of Drunken Immortal Supreme. The number of golden immortals is likely even greater, so I don't think you need to inquire about this issue. Tang Xiu looked at the slightly changed expression on their faces and secretly sighed inwardly. How could he not see that these 2 guys had been wanting to investigate the situation of their enemies? However, he didn't point it out to them openly and just lightly said, Well, I'm also bored here. Since you guys want to go out and stroll around, then accompany me. Maybe we can get some unexpected gains outside. Chapter 1348, Intriguing and Perplexing. A large number of immortals either hurried off or immersed in cultivation, could be seen everywhere in the midst of the sea of mansion-type artifacts, and a road was formed between the tens of thousands of mansions and palaces. Leading Star Luminous and Star Ping, Tang Xiu quietly walked on the road while his eyes casually glanced around, observing the immortals and palaces in the surroundings. At present, the weakest of those who dared to appear were ordinary immortals. No mortals dared to be here for fear of running into some short-fused immortals that were bound to harm them. Seeing these countless faces made Tang Xiu feel strange, though he wasn't that surprised either. Back when he was a supreme, he rarely went outside except when there were important things he needed to tend to or visit old friends. Rarely had he met or gathered together with those with low cultivation levels. 7 days later, he finally spotted a familiar face and killing intent gleamed in his eyes. The instant after, however, he turned to Star Luminous and Star Pang and reminded them lightly. I can sense a murderous aura from both of you. But you are not to cause trouble here even if you are perfected golden immortals. Be aware that your purpose here is not to seek revenge, but to strive and snatch your immortal fate. Star Luminous and Star Peng exchanged glances and immediately restrained their murderous auras. They just watched fixedly at the lean man sitting cross-legged several kilometers away outside a palace, just like a guard dog. Still, they nodded to Tang Xiu in silence. That was Argent Marshal Hale, Tang Xiu's former disciple. Though young, he was extremely talented in cultivation and possessed both fire and ice arteries and veins in his body. Eventually, Tang Xiu took a liking to him and received him as a disciple. He taught him meticulously for a few hundred years, and 700+ years ago Argent Marshal Hale was just an early-stage golden immortal. But this guy now had unexpectedly reached the late-stage golden immortal in such a short time. Gotta change the course and keep on moving. Tang Xiu looked around and calmly listened to the conversation between many immortals and soon learned many things. He also heard about where the people from Inner Pill Sect and Everlasting Palace were staying. Let's head to Boundless City, said Tang Xiu casually. He then floated up towards the small town near the Boundless Mountain Range. Star Luminous and Star Ping glanced at each other before they flew up to follow Tang Xiu. Established at the summit of a majestic mountain, the entire Boundless City itself was an immortal artifact, a 9th-grade artifact to be precise. The person in charge here was a perfected golden immortal who was backed by a supreme. As the secret palace left by Drunken Immortal Supreme was about to open and attracted a large number of powerhouses from all over the immortal world, the Boundless City's city lord, Boundless Star Guardian, not only felt like he was walking on thin ice, but he also must be very prudent in receiving these visitors. Even his master Elder Golden Peak had to come and hold the fort. Before the secret palace opened, no one was willing to provoke any troubles and become enemies with a supremacy stage powerhouse, so the security of Boundless City was still stable and under control. The mortal and immortal denizens here were cautiously giving service to the powerhouses who came from everywhere. Many of the natives here had gotten a lot of rewards from the visitors for their services. Yu Tian was a guy who had been living in Boundless City for 18 years. Although he was only a golden core cultivator, his shrewd character allowed him to have a cozy life. Every day, he wandered around the city to serve as a guide for some immortals, causing his blacksmith father to wish that he could break the legs of his son to make him stay at home and learn the ironsmith's way for a living. I got an immortal crystal yesterday. If I run into some other high-profile visitors today, I may even get more than yesterday. Pity this Boundless Cities is too small and those immortals' speed is too fast, else I'd have been able to get more since I can accompany them several days more. At the city gate, Yu Tian sat cross-legged on the edge of a curbstone, looking at the immortals coming in and out of the city gate, wondering inwardly what kind of high-profile visitor he'd run into today and which one of them would ask him as a guide. Scram, will you? I refuse to guide you. A young man who also worked as a guide ran into and snapped at a group of finely dressed yet menacing immortals. As a result, the young immortal slapped the youth guide. Fortunately, the latter's cultivation was not bad at the nascent soul stage, else he would have definitely died by the slap of that young immortal. Tisk, poor him to get so miserable. Yu Tian pursed his lips and clicked his tongue. He knew that nascent soul stage guy, a quite famous little fellow with quite an attitude. But 2 years ago, the guy eventually became much restrained and worked as a guide. Although he did get bullied many times, he still worked as a guide, a work he relied on to get a lot of money from these powerhouses. Shortly after, Yu Tian focused his attention on this group of people and heard the clamoring of several people in the back. He immediately understood that these people were all from Myriad Sword sect and that young man was the young lord of that sect. Bah, that shitty Myriad Sword sect again. They're nothing but dogs. The news was no longer new to Yu Tian. He had even heard of it too much. Naturally, the Myriad Sword sect was just a second-class sect attached to the Everlasting Palace. It was safe to say that they were their dogs that would bite anything targeted by its master. I heard that the Myriad Sword sect has been particularly rampant in recent centuries. Even the Vermilion Bird Holy sect that used to be super powerful was harassed by them very badly. Alas, they truly are dogs who rely on their master. Yu Tian secretly shook his head. After taking back his vision from the Myriad sect swords bunch, his eyes wandered around again to some people who just entered the city. Suddenly, his eyes lit up when his sight fell on the finely dressed handsome young man and then shifted to the young men behind him several seconds after. He thought for a moment and then decided to greet them. He respectfully said with an obsequious smile, "Senior Immortal really has extraordinary demeanor. You look so handsome, dazzling, and rich. May I know whether you're new to the city?" Tang Xiu smiled and nodded. "You work as a guide here?" The youth raised his thumbs up and praised. "You also have keen eyes, Senior Immortal. Just like a dragon among immortals, you make this unworthy one admire you. This little one has been living in Boundless City for 18 years indeed. It's safe to say that this one knows this city well. Especially in the recent years since the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme in the Boundless Mountain Range is about to open, so countless forces and powerful people with great supernatural abilities arrived here, letting me learn about quite a lot of special circumstances." Tang Xiu threw an immortal crystal to him and saw the youth take it with a surprised look. Then, he nodded and smiled. "I'll reward you more if you don't deceive me. But don't blame me for killing you if you dare to brag yet can't answer my questions later." "Yes, yes, yes. This little one absolutely knows everything here," replied Yu Tian hurriedly with a tense and prudent expression. "Well, does the city still have some unoccupied places to stay?" asked Tang Xiu. "No, all the taverns, restaurants, and inns are fully occupied, sir. Let alone those places, even most of the natives here have been driven out of the city and their homes have been occupied." Tang Xiu squinted his eyes and nodded. Then, he slowly said, "Accompany us to stroll around Boundless City. Let's just walk and not fly." "Stroll around on foot?" Yu Tian was surprised. "Senior Immortal, even if the Boundless City is not very big, it will still take us at least a year to completely traverse all the streets here by foot." After thinking for a while, Tang Xiu then said, "Then find something to ride. Take these 20 immortal crystals to rent them. You can have the remaining immortal crystals as the reward for your hard work." Yu Tian's eyes lit up and he asked quickly, "How long would you like to rent it, Senior Immortal?" Tang Xiu thought for a mile and answered, 10 days. "I think we can fully circle around Boundless City in 10 days. "No problem," said Yu Tian hurriedly. "I'll go immediately." Quickly after, the youth came back riding 2 popular beasts that pulled a luxurious coach. After Tang Xiu, Star Luminous, and Star Peng boarded the coach, Tang Xiu said, "You take the reins and drive. Calculate in your head how to fully tour the Boundless City within 10 days. Remember, don't drive too slow or too fast, just enough to stroll around for 10 days. "No problem, sir." Yu Tian was so happy. Renting this popular beast coach only cost 1 immortal crystal a day. 10 days would be 10 immortal crystals, so the remaining 10 would enter his pocket. Adding them with the other one Tang Xiu gave him before, he earned 11 immortal crystals in 10 days. While observing both sides of the street, Tang Xiu said, while strolling, "Brief us about the surroundings. The name of the place and the people who occupied it as well as their origins. If you've run into some immortals and some interesting events in recent years, you can also tell us about them. I'll give you 10 immortal crystals more 10 days later should your service make me satisfied." "He'll reward me, another 10 immortal crystals?" Yu Tian gulped and repeatedly nodded with gleaming eyes. Afterward, he began narrating about the buildings and many immortals who occupied them along the route they traversed. This fella really had great communication skills and was also very familiar with the situations of Boundless City. Tang Xiu was able to gradually learn the city's forces and the forces who had come here. He even heard of a large number of forces he had never heard of before. Ahead of us is the 100 Joyous Mansion that used to be a red light pavilion for those wild flowers. It was eventually given to the Everlasting Palace to occupy now. I heard that the mansion kept all the good-looking girls to serve those people, whereas the average-looking ones were sent home with money. In the past 2 years, tens of powerhouses from several forces have visited this 100 Joyous Mansion to seek pleasure with the girls here. They then clashed with the Everlasting Palace's people. In the end, those who came late lost and left. I also heard that some Supremes are staying in the 100 Joyous Mansion, but as for who the person is and what he looks like, I've never seen the person myself. 100 Joyous Mansion? A cold light flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes. Everlasting Sect was the sect Zither Demon Jiuyao belonged to. Although it used to be inferior to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, the gap of power between the two was not as big as that sect was considered as a top sect in the immortal world. 800 years ago, the entire Everlasting Palace had 2 supreme experts, albeit losing Myriad Thunder Supreme at the moment. Chapter 1349, Gathering Information. The gloomy-looking Star Luminous, who stood next to Tang Xiu, slowly said, "How many experts from the Everlasting Palace have come here, exactly? Are there any prominent ones among them?" Yu Tian turned to glance at Star Luminous and slowly shook his head, saying, "I dunno about the exact number, sir. But from my observations, it should be several hundred people. Else, the 100 Joyous Mansion wouldn't be filled up by them. Also, there's one prominent person among them." "Do you know the name of that person?" asked Star Luminous. "I heard it from others. That person seems to be a perfected golden immortal called Salientia Demon or something. He's very powerful and he was the one who crushed those powerhouses who came to seek pleasure with the 100 Joyous Mansions girl before," answered Yu Tian. "Salientia Demon?" Star Luminous and Star Peng exchanged glances and a similar look of hatred could be seen on their faces. If it wasn't for not knowing how powerful the person was, they would have already rushed to kill him. "What's wrong?" asked Tang Xiu lightly. "Do you have some feud or something with this guy?" Star Luminous hastily shook his head and said, No. I just asked casually. After all, so many forces went to the 100 Joyous Mansion to seek pleasure, but they were all kicked out by the Everlasting Palace's people. That's why we thought that there must be a very powerful figure among them. Since we now know that the Everlasting Palace's people will be able to guard against them earlier when we enter the secret palace." Tang Xiu slowly nodded and felt satisfied with Star Luminous' answer. Hiding their identities and waiting for a chance to get revenge was something that one must have aside from having patience. Only then would they be able to go on living and fighting against the enemy time and again. He felt that his guidance to these two fellas wasn't wasted. 8 days later, as the coach passed by a tea house, Yu Tian introduced it. "This place is occupied by immortals from Inner Pill Sect, about several hundreds of them. I heard their leader is someone called Venerable Multifarious Refiner, a fearsome supremacy stage expert. Rumors have it that this Inner Pill Sect is a top alchemy sect in the immortal world. They brought a massive number of elixirs and pills with wonderful effects and various types, so they are sought after by countless forces. I'm sure they are now flushed with profits. Venerable multifarious refiner must be grinning from ear to ear. You wait outside. We're going in to buy some pills, said Tang Xiu lightly. Having said that, he got up in a flash, but his hands were pressed on the shoulders of Star Luminous and Star Ping since the two guys couldn't restrain the murderous intent in their eyes. As they landed outside the tea house, he looked at the 4 golden immortals guarding the entrance and lightly said, I want to buy some immortal pills. The 4 men cupped their fists and one of them asked, May I know your origin, sir? Tang Xiu casually fabricated a name and then brought Star Luminous and Star Peng, who had finally calmed down, into the tea house. After entering, a white-haired old man greeted him. Then, Tang Xiu asked, Do you still have purple scent pill available? The old man observed Tang Xiu for a few moments and smilingly said, We still have some purple scent pills in store. Please come with me, everyone. Tang Xiu and they followed the old man to the 2nd floor and halted their pace in the corner of a hall. The old man then opened the cabinet door as he turned around and asked, How many purple scent pills do you need, sir? Give me 10, said Tang Xiu. The old man smiled slightly, took a cyan jade bottle, and handed it to Tang Xiu as he smilingly said, There are exactly 10 purple scent pills in this insulator, a total of 10 million immortal crystals. Tang Xiu took out 100,000 crystal essences and handed them to the old man. Then, he asked, Do you have thunder pellets here? Thunder pellets. The old man's countenance slightly changed. After putting away the 100,000 crystal essences, he carefully scrutinized Tang Xiu's trio for some time and then said with all seriousness, We do have thunder pellets here, but the number is few and each is extremely expensive. Do you really need to buy it, sir? How much is it, though? Asked Tang Xiu. 5 million crystal essences, said the old man. Then get me one. Tang Xiu nodded and said, Running into fearsome perfected golden immortals when entering the secret palace is bound to happen, so I can use this thunder pellet to snatch the time to escape in case of a grave crisis. The old man nodded and said, The 3 of you, please follow me to the 3rd floor. Star Luminous and Star Peng followed behind the old man and Tang Xiu with strange expressions. They communicated each other in private through voice transmission. Senior brother, this great Tang Heavenly Emperor not only uses a fake name to introduce himself but also spends big and dares to buy a thunder pellet. This person is definitely not simple. We need to be more cautious and guard against him. My opinion is the opposite of yours, junior brother. He's willing to buy a thunder pellet, meaning he has the ability to explode and kill a perfected golden immortal. The might of the thunder pellet is enough to kill an early-stage, perfected golden immortal should the person be caught off guard. Even the late-stage, perfected golden immortal would still be gravely injured if they were hit by it. Just one thunder pellet is enough to kill us if he wishes to do so, though I don't think he needs any trick or plot to harm us. You're right. Quickly after, Tang Xiu bought a thunder pellet and paid 5 million crystal essences. He observed around the 3rd floor of the tea house and learned some things about the inside of Inner Pill Sect, while also memorizing their faces. After leaving the tea house, Tang Xiu shifted to Yu Tian and said lightly, Take the 6th road on the left and head to the city gate directly, we can traverse several times faster. Although Yu Tian had no idea why Tang Xiu changed his mind, he respectfully drove the 2 popular beasts and returned through the return route as per Tang Xiu's instruction. A day later, the coach once again passed the 100 joyous mansion occupied by the everlasting palace. Tang Xiu then shifted his attention to the weapon shop on the opposite side and lightly said, Let's go inside to casually pick some immortal weapons. As for you, you wait here for us. Yu Tian hesitated but finally said, Senior Immortal, if you really want to buy immortal weapons from this place, please look for blacksmith old Yu inside. He should be busy at work at this hour and he'll give a cheaper price for the immortal weapons you'd like to buy. Tang Xiu raised his brows and said, Your surname is Yu, and that blacksmith you mentioned is also surnamed Yu. Are you his family member? Yu Tian dryly smiled. Well, he's my father. He usually refines weapons in his own workshop. But in recent years, he has been called over to this place for 3 days every 10 days to help them refine some small stuff. I see. Tang Xiu casually replied and then led Star Luminous and Star Ping into the shop. The place belonged to the Thousand Hammer sect, an equally famous artifact refining sect as the Artificer sect that had a supremacy stage powerhouse at the helm, who was also a Grandmaster Artificer who could refine 9th grade artifacts. Is there something you'd like to purchase, sirs? A young man in the shop greeted and asked with a smile. We're going to have a look around first, so please go ahead and tend to your work. We'll call you later when we find the weapons we like, said Tang Xiu lightly. By your will, sir. The young man's smile vanished after he heard it and then turned to leave. After entering the shop, Tang Xiu came straight to a shelf on the 2nd floor. He only glanced at the immortal weapons on it and ignored them. His eyes, however, swept through the window of the building on the opposite side and silently memorized the faces of some people inside that building. After an hour, Tang Xiu turned and left. After returning to the coach, he said lightly, "Let's go." Star Luminous and Star Pang were deeply puzzled by Tang Xiu's behavior, though they were able to see some clues about him by following him outside this time. Have you noticed something, senior brother? This great Tang Heavenly Emperor has been acting very suspicious, said Star Pang with a voice transmission.
Yeah.
He's been acting very suspicious to me too, replied Star Hao with a voice transmission. After we came to Boundless City, he only stopped by at 2 places besides finding a guide at the city gate. The first one is the 100 Joyous Mansion, where the Everlasting Palace is staying. The second one is this where the building on the opposite side is occupied by Inner Pill sect. We both saw clearly that he didn't intend to buy any immortal weapons whatsoever, but to observe the Everlasting Palace's situation inside that building. I noticed these too, said Star Peng. But what I'm thinking now is, what exactly is his true identity? Why is he secretly observing the Everlasting Palace and Inner Pill sect? Star Luminous' eyes gleamed. I'm certain that he's definitely not one of ours since we've never seen or met him in 700+ years. Unless his face now is not his true appearance and he also has changed his aura. But I have a hunch that he's on our side, senior brother, though I have no idea to which faction he belongs to, said Star Peng. He wouldn't have gifted us immortal weapons and healing elixirs and made us stay with him for no reason. Besides, even if he's not on our side, he wouldn't have secretly observed the Everlasting Palace and the Inner Pill sect. There's also another detail I noticed, though I dunno whether you also noticed it. Detail? What detail? Star Luminous' expression shifted and he asked immediately. Back when we were outside the place occupied by Inner Pill sect, we both exuded killing intent to the people of Inner Pill sect. But he directly got up and pressed our shoulders, said Star Peng. Star Luminous fell into silence. He didn't pay attention to it before. But after Star Peng mentioned it, he suddenly realized that Tang Xiu's action was definitely not normal. Do you think he has found out our true identity? Star Luminous asked incredulously after a long while. I'm not sure about that either, replied Star Peng with a wry smile. At the city gate, Tang Xiu took out 10 immortal crystals, threw them to Yu Tian, and lightly said, "You've done a very good job these days, so those are your rewards. But remember that we're now strangers and you have never seen us before." I understand. Yu Tian memorized it and immediately replied respectfully. Tang Xiu then led Star Luminous and Star Peng back to the myriad golden catamaran at their fastest speed. As they came to the 2nd floor, his pace halted, he looked at Star Luminous and Star Face with a calm face, and then lightly said, "Our harvest this time is great. You both should have acquired the information you want to know, so you should also be clear about those you should pay attention to and those to be avoided when you enter the secret palace later, yes?"
Yeah.
It's clear now. The two nodded at the same time. We're leaving half a month later, concluded Tang Xiu. Seeing that Tang Xiu was about to head to the third floor, Star Luminous hurriedly said, "Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, may we ask you a question?" Tang Xiu turned around, but he didn't halt his pace and lightly said instead, "You've already guessed some parts, so why ask? Some things will no longer be interesting when they are pointed out openly." Chapter 1350, A Fight Between Powerhouses. Tang Xiu didn't want to reveal his identity even though he knew that Star Luminous and Star Peng were very loyal to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. It could be said that he had powerful enemies literally everywhere in the immortal world nowadays. He had yet to fully investigate how many people took advantage when the Everlasting Palace and Inner Pill Sect attacked the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, becoming supporters of their evil works, cheering for them, and waving their flags. Such enemies must be completely annihilated so as to prevent future troubles. He had devised some plans after returning to the immortal world, but the first part of his major plan was not to get revenge but to quickly improve his own strength while training a large number of powerhouses. Otherwise, even if his cultivation returned to the peak, he would have no means to get revenge considering he must face the Everlasting Palace and the Inner Pill Sect that had a deep heritage. As he came to the third floor, Tang Xiu looked at the welcoming Apotheosis Bella and calmly spoke, "I've gathered some useful news. I decided that after entering Drunken Immortal Supreme's secret palace, the first thing I'll do is to snatch the wealth in the secret place and then collect some interests." "You mean the interests from the Everlasting Palace and Inner Pill Sect?" asked Apotheosis Bella. "That's right." Tang Xiu nodded. "The number of people from these two forces who'll enter the secret palace is likely quite a lot. Yet, they are still rivals when it comes to snatching fortuitous encounters. They won't be united and definitely won't team up in their actions. As long as they are separated, I can fish in troubled waters and inflict some losses to them. Further, there's a lot of wealth there, but who can guarantee that these golden immortals and perfected golden immortals are short on wealth? Killing them and snatching their wealth will be like killing two birds with one stone. I believe in your ability, but you still have to pay attention to your safety." Apotheosis Bella nodded and exhorted. "After all, there will be a lot of perfected golden immortals there, and some of them are even able to contend against early-stage supremes. You must not take this lightly." "I know that," said Tang Xiu. On the second floor, an exciting look gleamed in the eyes of Star Luminous and Star Peng. Although they had already some guesses about the identity of the great Tang Heavenly Emperor, now they had finally determined that the person was on their side. It was simply the best gospel they had heard for hundreds of years. After all, to have support from an unfathomable powerhouse that belonged to their camp may help them in the secret palace. This great Tang Heavenly Emperor is very rich. If he's really a friend of our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, can we borrow some immortal crystals and crystal essences from him? Without the support of immortal crystals and crystal essences, the cultivation speed of our sect's disciples will be slowed down a lot and we can't have such a situation to happen for the next millennium. Else, our sect would be breached by the enemies and be destroyed, said Star Peng excitedly. Star Luminous, however, suppressed his excitement and forced a smile. But the most important thing is, we're not yet clear about his identity. Besides, there's a chance that he'll refuse if we rashly mention this issue. The most important point of all is that we absolutely can't reveal how dire our sect's financial situation is at the moment. Once our enemy found out our situation, they will definitely keep tabs on us more closely, and those from our sect can only dream when they must secretly go out. His statement poured by a bucket of cold water on Star Peng and he smiled bitterly. He knew that his senior brother Star Luminous was correct. Outsiders may think that the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect was not in a shortage of immortal crystals and crystal essences, in a short time due to their deep heritage. But they were insiders who knew best about their own situation. Their sect had been maintaining the sect protective array all the time for centuries already. The number of immortal crystals and crystal essences consumed by the activated array was astronomical. Coupled with the consumption of the people there to absorb the immortal force contained in the immortal crystals and crystal essences, To pick up their cultivation speed, it was just a disaster after another. No matter how deep the heritage of the sect was, such a long period of consumption still exhausted their resources. Suddenly, both of them flickered to the window and looked at the mighty waves of the river surface in the distance with shocked faces. They clearly saw 3 perfected golden immortals besieging a perfected golden immortal in white. Though his cultivation was mid-stage, perfected golden immortal, a minor stage higher than the 3 others. Strange, that's Tao Master Qing Feng from pristine immortal Confucian sect. How come he provoked the myriad sword sect's people? Those from pristine immortal Confucian sect have always been pure-hearted and they rarely participate in the battles between the forces in the immortal world. Starpang frowned and his eyes flickered with incredulity. A cold light flashed in Starluminous' eyes and he said in a deep voice, "Our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect may have no friendship with the pristine immortal Confucian sect, but, nonetheless, the enemy of our enemy is our friend. The Myriad Sword sect has been behind the ass of Everlasting Palace every time they attack our section. Too many of our relatives and friends died in the hands of their powerhouses. It's hateful, but we can only blame ourselves for being very weak. I don't think we can help even if we go out. Else, I would have rushed out to help and fight side by side with this pristine immortal Confucian sect's fellow immortal, to kill all those Myriad Sword sect's bastards." Starpang also clenched his fists and unwillingly said, "There are too many powerful enemies out there. If we were to help that person from the pristine immortal Confucian sect rashly, we're bound to have our identity exposed and be pursued by powerful enemies." On the 3rd floor, Tang Xiu and Apotheosis Bella also noticed the fight outside. As both of them appeared by the window, Tang Xiu knitted his brows and said, "Who are they?" "That one is Tao Master Qing Feng from the pristine immortal Confucian sect, a casual acquaintance of mine." Apotheosis Bella narrowed her eyes and slowly said, "That man is a decent person and his sect has a very good connection in the immortal world. I'm sure you recognize the attire the 3 other perfected golden immortals are wearing, no? They are Myriad Sword sect's people." "Pristine immortal Confucian sect and Myriad Sword sect?" Tang Xiu slightly frowned and his eyes flickered. He would have sat firmly on this spot and turned a blind eye if the Myriad Sword sect were to clash with someone from another section. But he somehow was related to this section. Especially because Xueyu had obtained the inheritance of Tao Master Guai from this section. It could be said that she was already a half-disciple of the pristine immortal Confucian sect. Looking at it, staying still and not to get involved with such a fact was not acceptable. Apotheosis Bella glanced at Tang Xiu's face and asked slowly, "Xiu, do you want to help Tao Master Qing Feng?" Tang Xiu nodded and said,
"Yeah."
"Xueyu has inherited Tao Master Guai's legacy, someone from the pristine immortal Confucian sect. She can be said to be half a disciple of this section. Besides, this Myriad Sword sect has been the evil accomplice that has caused great losses to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, so I want to help Tao Master Qing Feng." "All right, then I'm going out," said Apotheosis Bella. No, Tang Xiu shook his head. "Sable Fiend Scorpio will go out and deal with it. She's a late-stage, perfected golden immortal and can fight those 3 perfected golden immortal of Myriad Sword sect alone. Adding Tao Master Qing Feng to the lineup, it will be easy for that man to quickly flee even if he gets pestered by those 3. After ruminating about it, Apotheosis Bella nodded. "That's fine too. The Myriad Sword sect has too many people here and they have Everlasting Palace behind them. Daoist Qing Feng is bound to face a dead end if he were to get pestered here. Saving him now is the best choice." Tang Xiu then summoned Sable Fiend Scorpio and said, "Do you see the fighting outside?"
"Yeah."
"But I have no idea who they are," replied Sable Fiend Scorpio respectfully. "The immortal in white is Daoist Qing Feng from the pristine immortal Confucian sect, while the 3 others clashing with him are from the Myriad Sword sect. I'm tasking with helping Tao Master Qing Feng. You don't need to kill his opponents, however. What you must do is to bring Tao Master Qing Feng here as fast as possible." I'll have him secretly returned after the storm has subsided. By your will, Lord. Sable Fiend Scorpio originally thought that Tang Xiu would order her to help Dao Master Qing Feng to kill those 3 perfected golden immortals of Myriad Sword Sect, which would greatly increase the difficulty. But if she was just to help Dao Master Qing Feng to flee, it was not a difficult task for her. The moment after, Sable Fiend Scorpio silently left the Myriad Golden Catamaran and took a detour to another direction without leaving any traces, preparing to move at any time. Qing Feng, your cultivation may be a level higher than ours, but I don't think you can insist for long facing the attacks of us 3 martial brothers. You dare to poke your nose and meddle in the business of Myriad Sword Sect, so you must be ready to die. Ajern Northsword of Myriad Sword Sect manipulated his sword to block and stab Dao Master Qing Feng after laughing uproariously. Humph, the juniors of your Myriad Sword Sect keep harassing and terrorizing men and take their women. They even dare to kill mortals rampantly. Dao Master Qing Feng chided coldly. Such deeds are something I must get involved with. Killing your juniors is a message from me to you. Whoever dares to wantonly kill mortals again, terrorizing men and taking their women, there will be others who will poke their noses and take care of this injustice as well. The smile on Ajern Northsword's face faded away like a tide. He glared at Dao Master Qing Feng and intensified his attack, shouting, "Only death awaits those who meddle in our business. You killed my disciple, so you must pay with your life. Your pristine immortal Confucian sect may have people stationed in Boundless City, but anyone who dares to help you means that they are declaring war with my Myriad Sword Sect." Dao Master Qing Feng no longer replied and conjured various immortal arts and supernatural abilities. Golden runes emerged in the sky and constantly bombarded his 3 enemies. Hundreds of thousands of meters in the surroundings. At least hundreds of thousands of immortals could hear the exchange between the 2 men. Nearly all of them looked at the Myriad Sect Sword's 3 perfected golden immortals as shameless and despicable people. Although they also thought that it was stupid for Dao Master Qing Feng to meddle in others' business, the declaration made by Ajern Northsword that pulled his sect to the battle with such a fight was simply shameless. The reason was simple. The one killed was his own disciple. It was him who must avenge his disciple, so why must he pull his 2 martial brothers into the fray? Yet, if anyone from the pristine immortal Confucian sect were to rush to help Dao Master Qing Feng meant that they declared war between 2 sects? What kind of principle was that? It was simply bullying. Pulling his Myriad Sword Sect that was stronger than the pristine immortal Confucian sect to the table to bully others. Amidst the hundreds of thousands of people, 9 Nether Swordmeister's eyes flickered with evident coldness. He unleashed his innate natal immortal weapons and was ready to move. He was a lifelong friend of Dao Master Qing Feng. Now that he ran into him and saw him in danger, he didn't even think twice to get himself into great troubles. Stay still.